Rocket League. It's got some of the most talented players in the world, and also some of the worst to ever touch a controller. If you fall into that latter group, lean forward in your chair and get your notes ready as I take you through every Rocket League mechanic. I'll try to take you in rough order from most simple to most complex. Starting with the basics, we have the dribble. Now there are three main types of dribble. The first type is the basic rolling dribble. With your car next to the ball while it's rolling, you can threaten a hook shot, a sharp cut that breaks defenders' axles, or you could quickly transition into one of the other two dribble types if you're good enough. If you're planning on using this one, it's ideal if the ball is rolling towards the corner, not directly at the net, because you can't hook shot the ball forward. The second type of dribble is when you balance the ball on the roof of your car. This creates a vertical threat for your opponents, as you can launch the play into the air rapidly with a flick or air dribble, which we'll talk about later. It doesn't matter if you're Plat or SSL, the roof dribble is a staple of every game past a certain rank, especially in 1s and 2s. Performing it is a bit difficult to get used to. If you want to speed up, you have to first slow down, let the ball forward, and then you can speed up to catch up. This makes control, especially at the lower ranks, a challenge. The third type of dribble is the bounce dribble. A little bit antiquated in the modern meta, this move was more popular around the time of Ocalid's dominance in 2020. It's when you bounce the ball down the field and stay beside it. This gives you a ton of options. You could shoot, catch it in roof dribble, take it into the air, or keep it low and force your way in. The only problem is that it's hard to set these up and get the space needed for them at the higher ranks. You'll still see it a lot in Pro 1v1 though. Another proto mechanic you'll encounter even at the super low ranks is the 50-50, often just shortened to 50. This is when two, usually opposing players, smash into the ball at the same time and you can't really tell where it's going to go. Hence the name, it seems like a 50-50 shot at going in your favor. But what a lot of our lower ranked friends don't quite realize is how much 50s can be controlled. If you watch pro players who are entering into a 50, they often back up, adjust their car, turn around, hit the ball with their side, or do any number of things to try to control where the 50 goes. Learning to control 50s is crucial to climbing the ranks. I'd recommend starting off by learning how not to 50 the ball straight into your own net.
What are we watching today? What's going on?
Another staple of Rocket League is the boom, as it's often called in comms. The logic on this one is pretty simple. I can't control the ball for whatever reason. Maybe I have no boost, or there's a defender nearby or whatever, so I'm just going to hit it as hard as I can toward the opponent's half. This allows my team to push forward, grab boost, and challenge the opponents as they attempt to push back downfield. Or, if you get the chance, you could just boom it into the opposing net if the opponents are pushed up too far. When teams keep booming the ball back and forth, this is called boomer ball and might be a sign that the players are panicking and giving away possession too quickly. It could also be a strategy though. This type of gameplay was very common in the early seasons of RLCS, back when players were less talented on ball. Booms are most effective when the ball is hit directly after bouncing, and when the ball doesn't hit the ceiling. If it hits the ceiling, it usually just falls into the lap of the opposing team. One of the simpler mechanics, but a small and necessary piece of becoming better. For whatever reason, Rocket League's physics make turning faster if you lightly tap Powerslide. It's quite annoying that this feature exists, but it helps significantly, and once you get to the higher ranks, you'll find yourself constantly tapping that Powerslide button. It should be light enough that you can't see the car drifting, but you'll feel the difference. The half flip is another mechanic to master early. By diagonally backflipping and then canceling the flip by pushing the left stick up, the game automatically turns your car over, and you've turned around instantly without having to do a 3-point turn. It's another one that you'll use every game. A wave dash is a small mechanic in which a player flips forward while his back wheels are touching the ground. This allows you to receive the speed boost from a flip without having to flip through the air. This is especially useful when you're jumping off the wall and don't have the time or space to do a full flip. Learning how to wave dash is not too difficult, though messing them up can still happen even at the higher ranks. We call this a sizz dash. Flick is an umbrella term for about 1 million different types of moves that involve launching the ball using a flip. The most common forms will come out of the roof dribble, the noob front flip, the side flip flick, the back flip pop-up flick, the 90-degree flick, the moxie flick, and more are all achievable from the dribbling position, hence why the dribble is so threatening. It's also possible, however, to perform an aerial flick. We'll get to that later. The doink is simultaneously one of the easiest mechanics, but also one of the most effective all the way up through the ranks. To perform a doink, you need to be between the ball and the opposing net. The ball must be hit low and in your direction. Then, when a defender is about to hit the ball, you jump from underneath, launching it up like an inverse Goomba stomp. This can be used to send the ball into a separate part of the net and score, or as a pass for a teammate. Because of how close the defender will be when you doink it, there's almost no time for him to react, hence it can be very effective, but it's highly situational. You'll probably only see this once every handful of games, if that. A pinch is when the ball is pressed between the player and another object to accelerate it instantaneously up to speeds otherwise unachievable in normal play. There are several forms of pinch. First, the team pinch, which everyone down to the lower ranks has tried and found fun to go for, where you usually try to converge around the center of the map and perfectly pinch it into the net. Second, the Cuxer pinch, which is named after early pro player and world champion Cuxer97, who first put the move on display in RLCS 10 years ago. What Cuxer realized was that if the ball slightly rolled up the wall, you could squarely jump and flip into it at just the right angle to make it fly off the wall and directly into the opposing net. It looks insane, but it actually isn't too hard if you spend a little bit practicing it. Its use in-game is highly situational though, but it is pretty practical in 1v1, especially if you notice your opponent is out of position for a moment. Third, the astral pinch, which is a slight variation of the Cuxer pinch but is performed in the opposing team's corner, and is much more difficult and rare to pull off. Fourth, the ground pinch, which is accomplished by landing on the ball after an aerial play, usually to shoot the ball under a jumping defender, or in some cases over a grounded one. And finally, the ceiling pinch, which in pro play was popularized by Zen with his signature shot, which we'll discuss more later. Aerial is a general term for jumping and boosting upwards to hit the ball. This can be done to shoot, to make a save, or to challenge the ball in midfield play. At the higher ranks, the game becomes almost entirely aerial, so you better get this one down quickly. A fast aerial is just a double jump aerial, but one in which between jumping and the double jump, the player tilts back his car, holding boost the entire time. This allows you to get into the air far quicker than if you were to first double jump, then tilt back, then boost. Again, necessary at the higher ranks, so get to practicing. The redirect has a long history in RLCS, going all the way back to the original goat of the mechanic, Alok.
To the ground, although Alok puts that one straight up. That is the angle of the century!
This is a move that many friends have shouted at each other in comms trying to hit for the past decade. The basic version of it is to be downfield and have the ball be hit to you. Then, while the ball's trajectory is off target, you redirect it towards the net. This could be on the ground, just above the ground, high in the sky, or if you're good enough, off of the opponent's back wall. The redirect has always had its exciting place in Rocket League, but over the recent years has somewhat fallen out of terminology as passing becomes less meta because highly mechanical solo plays dominate the majority of the scene. A double touch is when a player hits the ball into the back wall, reads the bounce midair, and shoots it on target for a goal. These types of goals are extremely common at the higher ranks. The defense is often so good that you can't go straight at the net. Instead, you have to get the ball around a defender and onto the back wall, then you could shoot it and have a better chance. Almost all of the setup for a double touch actually lies in the first touch. You need to hit the ball in such a way that your car continues to follow where the ball is going. If you do this right, you might even be able to do it with no boost. Now we're getting into the real fancy stuff. The air dribble is an ancient technique, but one that has improved immensely throughout the years. Starting off mainly as a freestyling gimmick, it's become as important to the game as ground dribbling, if not more important past a certain rank. An air dribble is when you take the ball into the air and control it using light touches. This allows you to finish with a 50, a shot, a pass, or take the ball back to the ground. In addition, most players will add spins to their air dribbles. This isn't just to look cool, although it certainly does. By spinning, it becomes harder to read where the dribbler is planning to take the ball. Will he keep hitting it high, or will he turn down and let it drop? Additionally, the spinning can help get slightly more power and control by turning into the ball. Also affectionately termed the air dribble cringe by some players and casters, this move is extremely effective and was utilized perhaps most famously in Game 7 of the World Championship in 2019 by Justin. The air dribble bump is, just as the name implies, when a player air dribbles but then leaves the ball to bump a defender. In ranks like GC, this is usually used against the goalkeeper to score easily, but in pro play you'll often see this used on the defender who's challenging the ball to allow a teammate to get a free shot off. The key with the air dribble bump is to elevate the ball enough so that the defender must jump to reach it. Once this happens, it becomes very difficult to dodge the bump and hit the ball at the same time mid-air. That's why people call it the air dribble cringe, because they find it cheap. But hey, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Holding on to possession, Wise with 33 seconds. He's going to go cringe himself. He says, any cringe you can do, I can cringe better.
The ceiling shot, as popularized by Squishy Muffins, is when a player jumps or falls off of the ceiling and then shoots the ball on net. This is often accompanied with an air dribble or a double touch and is not too hard to learn, but extraordinarily difficult to master, and especially becomes very tough to set up quickly and perform in game without getting saved. The flip reset is a staple of modern day pro play and perhaps the most famous mechanic of all time. The basic premise is simple. Your flip only lasts so long, but if you can land on the ball midair, you can reset your flip timer and use it. In fact, when you naturally fall off the ball, the timer actually never starts at all, so you have your flip as long as you're in the air. This makes the flip reset, when controlled, extraordinarily powerful for threatening shots in the air. You could flip the ball over defenders, keep control and double touch it in, or flip past it and bump the defender, or fake the flip and go low. The problem is that it takes thousands of hours to master this one. Learning how to get resets without losing control of the ball is in particular very difficult, but it's even more difficult to learn how to flip without losing control, as many pros are able to do at will. The speed flip is a form of advanced diagonal front flip, which is used in conjunction with boost to gain speed faster than a regular front flip. In order to perform a speed flip, the player must diagonal flip, cancel their flip at the perfect moment, then adjust with some air roll to land square and straight on his four wheels, all while boosting. This allows the boost end of the car to be pointed backwards the entire duration of the flip, which makes the entire flip a faster process, especially if you're not worrying about conserving any boost. This is especially important on the kickoffs, as at the higher ranks all players will be capable of performing speed flip kickoffs. One last note on the speed flip, there is some debate as to whether speed flipping without boost is worth it. Some pros will always do it as it's second nature, but some will say no, if you have no boost, just front flip because it doesn't matter. The Musty Flick was invented by and named after Rocket League YouTuber A Musty Cow. In a video titled Musty Flick posted in 2017, Musty demonstrated that if you have a flip, then point your nose down behind the ball, you can backflip to launch the ball forward and or up. For about 3 years, this move didn't even touch the pro world, but was only usable by freestylers, but around 2022, we started to see this occasionally be employed in pro play. In RLCS today, you'll see this one pulled out every once in a while, especially by certain players who have it down pat like LJ and Joyo, and when it's done well, it's certainly a sight to behold. A form of wave dash, the Zap Dash was popularized by and named after pro 1v1er Zapatos. He realized that if you jump just as your front wheels hit the ground, it pops them back up and puts you in a perfect position to hit a wave dash. This could be a nice way to get some free speed by getting an instant wave dash where you otherwise would have had to jump and flip. This is very useful for ones with all the low boost play and kickoff recoveries, but in twos and threes, it can be a bit more situational. The squishy save, also sometimes referred to as the in and out save, is another mechanic popularized by Squishy Muffins. The way it works is when you're on defense, instead of stopping at the goal line and trying to make a save, you drive into the net and flip out of the top of it. This allows you to keep your momentum, get a flip, and get elevation without having to use boost. For these reasons, the squishy save is most effective when you're on low boost or when you're getting chased and need to keep momentum to avoid getting bumped. We now get to the wall dash, the first mechanic in this video that I couldn't do to save my life. While driving on the wall, you can perform a wall dash to speed yourself up by slightly jumping and immediately side flipping back into the wall. While you do this, you have to counter steer from the side flip in order to keep going straight. This is especially useful if you're on low boost, as the normal methods of speeding up like front flipping, wave dashing, and speed flipping don't work on the wall. This gets really good at the very high ranks where you can see pro level players string together wall dashes in what's called a chain dash. This can get someone from crawling speed up to supersonic very quickly, but like I said, this isn't something that you see very often, even in ranks like Grand Champ. As mentioned earlier, in 2023, Zen popularized the signature shot, which involved air dribbling up to the ceiling, pinching the ball off the ceiling into the opposing backboard, getting a reset off the ceiling, jumping down, and double touching the ball off the backboard into the net. It's a lot of moving parts, but it just shows how insane defense has gotten in Pro Rocket League, to the point where you need to do all of this, and nowadays, it often gets saved anyway. The Zen Touch is when the ball is flying directly at you in the air, and you fly up to hit it, but instead of booming it, you somehow hit it lightly enough to retain perfect control and initiate an air dribble. Sometimes referred to as the Zutch, this move is subtle, and the untrained eye might not even notice it, but it's extraordinarily difficult to master, and provides a very real tactical advantage because it allows you to control a ball that you otherwise couldn't have. Just like the pogo stick from the playground, a pogo is when you bounce off the ground with your car and proceed to make a play on the ball mid-air. It's accomplished by aiming for a certain sweet spot in the corner of your car's hitbox right when you're about to hit the ground. Quite difficult to pull off, you don't see much use of this even in modern pro play, but there are certain players who are able to put it in practice, in particular the Saudi Arabian player Dark, who gained international attention a few years ago for his usage of pogos in high-level 1v1.
The pogo is his. Into the reset and the immediate shot into the...
There's a slight variation of the typical pogo, which is called the Plan B. In this move, instead of bouncing off the ground and playing the ball mid-air, you pogo directly into the ball and shoot it rapidly over a challenging defender. This one has a little bit more use in RLCS.
And that is how this epic confrontation begins. AJG answers right back. Punch, counter punch, complexity.
And finally, we reach the mechanic which almost all casters, pros, and creators agree is the most difficult move in Rocket League, the Psycho. The Psycho, technically speaking, is a version of a skim. A skim is when the player goes to touch the ball, but instead of hitting it with the front of the car, bends under it and slightly grazes it such that it picks up speed rapidly and maintains a similar direction of travel. The Psycho is when this is done not off the sidewall or from a pass, but off of a player's own backboard. When done correctly, this can accelerate the ball so fast that it flies directly into the opponent's net without bouncing. One of the most incredible mechanics to ever touch Rocket League, and a move that even leaves pros hyped after hitting it. So there you have it, every Rocket League mechanic explained. But before you go, you might not have noticed that at the time I'm releasing this video, this channel only has 350 subscribers. Please consider subscribing so that I can lift this tiny channel off the ground. Thanks for watching, everyone. By the way, I forgot the Doomsy dish. It's when you follow the ball on the opposing back wall and jump off and score it.